All right, let's talk about it. I know why you're mad. You're mad because what you expected to see did not happen in The Last Jedi. We've explained this over and over again, but yet and still, people still just don't get it. The Last Jedi, okay? You guys thought Luke Skywalker is going to battle with Snoke. Him and Snoke is going to battle, and Luke is going to kill Snoke. If it's going the way you think, then what is the point of making the movie? Whoever said Luke was supposed to beat Snoke? If anything, Kylo would be the one to beat him. Luke didn't even beat the Emperor. And this is why I try to compare people to. It's like in the Emperor, you didn't see him until Return of the Jedi. You didn't see Snoke until this one. The Emperor was not in the first one. You saw a hologram of him in the second one, and you only saw him in Return of the Jedi. It was like 20 some odd years later when they made the prequels. Did you see how the Emperor Palpatine came into play? You didn't even know him as Palpatine. You knew him as the Emperor until you saw the prequels that came out and started in 99. So if it wasn't for that, you wouldn't have known any of it. But you guys are so confused now because of this technology, and we got to have it on now, and it's got to go this way. You guys have eliminated the entire story of what you just saw. That's what it's like. People either absolutely love The Last Jedi or they hate it. No, they don't hate. They hate the fact that they didn't see what they thought they were going to see. We want to know about Rey's parents. We found out it's nothing. The story is not complete. You don't know if that's the answer to where Rey's parents. We don't know yet. Just like last movie, you swore to God she was Luke Skywalker's daughter. She's Luke's daughter. And Luke has found his daughter. Oh man, this is gonna be great. This is Luke's daughter. She's Obi-Wan Kenobi's kid. No, it's like, oh well, her family was a bunch of alcoholics. They dropped her off and sold her for money. What? This is terrible. You have to wait till the story's complete before you start making all these suggestions. So yeah, you got a bunch of teenagers who are going online leaving reports about how bad the movie is because they don't know any better. They don't see the message in the film. They don't know how well directed this film is. They don't know about how visually it looks with the shots. They don't know about the arc of a character and what's going on. The only thing that everybody seemed to be in agreement about is the same thing. And that was the casino scene. That set probably needed to be cut. When Rian Johnson made this film, there was probably the most sets anybody has ever seen in a Star Wars film. And it probably surprised a lot of people on there, like, with a film this big, you can't have that many sets because it's going to be too much to maintain. And overall, it was. So when you saw the film and all the people crying and everything, the movie made $220 million. Star Wars is the only film to have two movies to make $100 million in a day. One day, a Hondo. They pulled a Hondo in a day twice. So whenever Star Wars drop, they pull in a Hondo in a day. They're in a $1 billion business. They're not trying to get no 700, 800 million. They finna drop $1 billion when they come out. When the Star Wars drop is the biggest of all time. Straight like that. So now, episode 9, where will you go? That should be the bigger question. Everything is an alley oop until you see the story complete. The story completed is in 3. You guys act like this is the finale. But I just thought, man, Snoke was going to do this and Snoke was going to do that. Well, that's what you get for thinking. That's what you get for thinking. Because that's called stinking thinking. So when you're stinking thinking, that's what happens to you. You make your own assumptions, or you make your own basically assumptions as to what you think is going to happen. And when it don't happen, oh, you hated it because it went that way. When you have 2 different writers and 2 different directors doing 2 different movies, you're going to have different results. Each director have their style, even though J.J. Abrams was putting his input on it as the producer, was saying, as far as for story and making sure the continuity wasn't lost from what he started. You had people out there such as who was that? Characters like Finn, for instance. Let's start with Finn. Finn's arc changed a lot from the first one to the second one because he wasn't going to be around Rey in the second film. In the first film, it was built on Rey and Finn, like they were the team. But Finn is injured. Rey's gone out with Luke Skywalker, so the film is starting to turn. So when Finn comes back, his motivation, he needs a new direction of what you're going to do with Finn, because now, his whole thing is where's Rey, and I got to get to where Rey is, and Rey we need to find and be around each other. That's his whole motivation. Let me get Rey. We can go away and get away from this, because he still hadn't bought in to the rebellion. His whole thing, he used the rebellion to try to go out and get Rey. That was his whole thing, is I'm just here to save Rey. So he cooked up the whole idea, the plan, and let's go do this and that, just so he can go grab Rey. And that was in The Force Awakens. In this one, now he has a bit of a mission to do, but he still wanted to get Rey until they got to the end where he gives that speech about people believe in Leia, they're going to show up, and let's go out there and stop this gun and let's go do this. He finally believed in hope, because he wasn't somebody who was all about hope and let's use the Force and all this. He was never really into that. Until like really now he started to believe and have hope and be part of something and wanting to stop the First Order. And it's like, look, let's stop them. But it took a while for him to get there, because his arc was the First Order, because he used to work there, Phasma, all of that. So he knew all about like everything they did there. So his whole thing is, let me get in and try to defeat the First Order, because that's where I'm supposed to be. Like this is it for me. First Order time. So on that note, I mean, I love this movie, because the more you watch it, the more you pick something up. I mean, you can nitpick any movie, But it's nothing to really throw you off and say, oh, I can't see this. Oh, I can't do that. Oh, I can't see this. There are scenes that I would have liked to have seen. And I mean, in every movie, you would have loved to have seen it. I would have gotten rid of Snoke at that point, but Snoke was too powerful for any of them. And where did Snoke come from? You're gonna understand. This is how Star Wars works. You might not find out in episode 9 about Snoke anymore. That might come out in a whole nother prequel to this. And you learn what happened with Snoke and how Snoke came into power and everything else. You gotta understand Star Wars, this is a machine. How they work. Then you'll be talking about Snoke later. You'll be calling him by his government name by then. Man, Snoke was powerful, man. And for them to take him out like they did, because people said that in Return of the Jedi when the Emperor, man, that Emperor was something else, man. Because people were shocked in Return of the Jedi when they've never seen electricity come from somebody's hands in the Star Wars saga before. And when the Emperor did it, you're like, oh my God. He made electricity come out of his hands. So another issue that was brought up was the fact of Rey's training. Now they addressed how Kylo Ren lost in the first movie. Remember you guys complained about that in The Force Awakens? Man, how in the world she beat Kylo Ren? He's a Jedi Knight. She never held a lightsaber before. That's some bull. Even Mark Hamill brought that point up. But it was addressed by Snoke when he was talking to Kylo Ren. He said by killing Han, it stripped him, his soul down the bone. It split his spirit. So when he did it, it split his spirit. And when his soul was split, he couldn't, he was off balance. He couldn't perform. And he got bested by a girl who never held a lightsaber. And he got mad and jumped up, and Snoke hit him with like 2,000 volts and set his butt down. Like, you get back down. So there was pretty much nothing he could do at that point but cry about it. Now, another thing you guys brought up from the movie. What was that you guys brought up? Because I want to make sure I get all your concerns, all your worries, everything. I want to make sure you understand things clearly. Rey again. Rey lifting the rocks. That seemed to be another major concern from you guys. Rey lifting the rocks. How's she gonna lift them rocks, man? That's some bull. She ain't been trained by nobody. Luke had to be trained by Yoda and all that, and he couldn't even lift the rock. And now she lifted all those rocks. Look. Let me tell you something flat out. Yoda tried to get Luke to believe. Luke blew up the Death Star. Luke was very anxious, but he was pessimistic about everything. He still didn't believe in what he couldn't see or touch, even though he had the Force ability. His pessimistic, impatient attitude was always there. So knowing this, the situations change. And what I mean by the situations changed, I mean that she was always hopeful. She was different from Luke. She grew up with the ambition to want to do all these things. And when she started having it, she was more open and optimistic about having things go and work. So she believed, she had hope. She believed that she could move these objects without using her arm for strength. Luke was so pessimistic, he couldn't get past his stubbornness. Even in this movie, Luke couldn't get past his own arrogance, his own ego. He's once again thinking it's about him. You know, I failed, so the whole thing got to go down. He's blaming the Jedi because of his failure. Because he's like, I'm a master, I'm supposed to be without fault. And that's what Yoda's trying to tell them. They all grow beyond what we become. That's the burden of all masters. They always grow beyond what we become. It's a beautiful story. It's a beautiful movie, man. I'm just shocked almost about how confused and just I think some people, most of these are trolls, you know, they just want attention. They want attention so badly that they would strip this movie down to the bone, finding every little thing to pick at to try to just say the whole movie sucked. Oh yeah, that thing with Finn and her, that was so dumb. Yeah, this movie sucked. I mean, this is the first Star Wars movie that didn't have lightsaber on lightsaber action, but it didn't even need it. You didn't even need it. I mean, you thought you was gonna get it with Kylo and Luke, and that's what everybody. All right, Kylo and Luke. That was geniusly done. I'm telling you, I'm in the movie theaters, and once they showed Luke floating in air, when they show him floating in air, and the fact that he wasn't even there, everybody clapped. But the strain killed him, and they was like, "Well, how did Luke die?" Well, Kylo Ren tells Rey just for connecting the Force that the strain alone would have killed her. The stress would have killed Rey to try to do it. So he's like, "Oh, well, this isn't you, because the stress alone would have killed you." And that was just to connect them through the Force, millions of miles away, using the Force. Now, now that Luke was doing it, he was doing a little bit more than that. He was projecting himself there, exerting a lot of energy of himself to be there. And to do that procedure was probably a lot of stress and strain on his life and took a toll on him that ended up costing him his life. And then he ended up becoming one with the Force. So once again, hopefully I've helped a lot of people and you guys can move on. But next video I'll do, we'll talk about the performances of the actors and break it down from there. your boy Karceno from Screen Fiend. I am out. Peace.